And this is one of the conversations that
Harbor! That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Harbor, my wet daddy Harbor, has been picked in the first game of NA Challengers by Faze against G2. Man, Harbor's best map is arguably Icebox, and he provides a lot for the team that other controllers simply cannot. You know, so when I saw that pick, I locked in my crypto bet and was met with utter disappointment.
Now to play this one slow, so it needs to push forward, but Whippy's on the back lines, and G2 will do it.
They lost 13-4, and my erection slowly but surely vanished. It was a stomp from G2, and a lot of people started memeing the pick. You know, in the chat, they were saying some pretty mean stuff in the chat. But luckily, Ludilu, the GOAT Harbor, the Harbor GOAT, the man who has been non-stop insta-locking Harbor in Radiant with a superb win rate, has been learning every little thing about this agent, and I am now here to show you how Faze could have used Harbor better against G2 on Icebox. Round 2, Faze is on an eco, and the setup is expected, right? We see Viper Wall on B to fake the presence, and Harbor is enough for the exec on A if they decide to do take A, which they do. Spoilers alert. They start to do a contact play, which works out, and they get a kill, right? Great. I was like, shush, GG, Faze up, let's go, gang. You know what I mean? And then I saw this. Now, the reason why I was upset here is because as a Harbor main, I've learned that one of Harbor's best attributes is his ability to wall virtually anything from anywhere, from safety, in a creative fashion, while allowing for unpredictable angles, positions, and possible pushes. Instead of jumping out and risking your life to wall something, Faze could have done something like this. By looking up as you wall, you're able to slow down the speed of the wall, allowing for more precise smokes. And this wall smokes Rafter as well, making it harder for G2 to come out Rafter. It's also good to note that this wall leaves a little potential rat corner you can play in, which could work out if they decide to push Maze on the retake. Let's move on to the next round. It's round 5, late in the round, and it's an A site execute with the Harbor ult and Sova ult combo, which is great. It's hard to deal with, and it puts a lot of pressure on G2, so they get out of the site. The wall that follows is okay, it can be better, and you might be thinking, Ludilu, they ran out of the wall A, and they're already out screens and Rafter. If the wall was better, it wouldn't even matter, they want to just push past it. Well, if you fast forward a couple seconds and look at this play from Dapper, you might think differently.
Surprise, motherfucker.
On the A side.
Oh, wait. You didn't know he was exposed.
That's right. Poised got killed from outside Rafter because it wasn't smoked. Now, Faze still won the round, but it's still good to note that if they did this wall, that death could have been prevented, and it would have been a cleaner round. It's also just better to wall Rafter every time you wall screens anyway. Moving on. Now we'll take a look at round 7. It's late in the round, and it's a 2v4 for Faze in a winnable situation. They have most of B site, and they're looking for a play, so they wall to get some space. Now, this wall isn't that bad, but it makes it a little awkward for Rossi when it comes to planting and or fighting. Again, Harbor can virtually wall anything from anywhere very creatively, so here's some other walls Faze could have used in this situation. It's also good to note that even if these walls were used by Faze, it's probably still an extremely hard round to win and results in a loss, but I do believe it could have been done easier with these walls. Again, if you look up, you can smoke everything very precisely, so I cover everything, including Snowman, and this just gives you a lot of cover to work with and isolate fights if you choose to do so. The second one is pretty much the same thing, but it goes a little bit deeper, and with this deeper wall, you could even opt in to go up the rope to top site and maybe surprise some enemies. Round 8, Fade is deciding to default, and they throw an interesting wall. Now, this wall is an attempt to fake some mid pressure, but it's not really actually covering any chokes. The wall is behind Tube, and it's also behind the central point in mid. So what is the point of this wall? It really does nothing, right? So from what I've learned playing Harbor, using Cove is a better lurk tool in mid. Let me explain. Now, this is the setup that G2 had. They had Viper B, Killjoy was Kitchen early, Sova was Boiler early, and then Sage and Raze were A. This was the setup they had, that Faze had, right? They had 3B, Viper A, and Killjoy A. Now, this would have been better, and I'm surprised that Faze didn't do this, and condition this more on their attack side half, is having Harbor mid. Now, having Harbor mid is great because it acts as a better default tool. The reason why this is the case is because the Cove Not only can you cove early and play in it better, which is like what some Vipers do, but sometimes they get spammed, so they don't really do it anymore. But you saw this a lot in the early days where a Viper would orb and then try and play in it, maybe find a timing into orange or snow pile, or find a timing into screens, right? A lot of times they'll get timinged, and a lot of people will just hold the smoke. Now with Harbor, when you orb, you can play in it more safely since it has armor on it, sorry. And if people shoot it, you know their location, because people are more inclined to shoot something that has armor on it, so it fades. Right now, you might be thinking, why waste your cove if they're just gonna shoot it? Because Harbor has great creative plays where you can do something maybe like this. Maybe we have Viper and Harbor here, and if this Sova shoots the cove, our Harbor here could throw a cascade. He could throw a cascade here, blocking this angle. So now the second those bullets are shot, that angle is blocked, and boom, you have a double lurk through mid, where maybe this whole team maybe decides to go A and crunch. Then Harbor can throw maybe a high tide along something, maybe something like this, right? And now all of a sudden they have A main control, a lurk, or not A main control. Well, they should have A main control of this comp. They'll have some sort of mid control and low-key screens control. And this Killjoy is shitting his pants. This Viper is shitting his pants. He's like, do I go here? This Sage is probably going to rotate and help here, right? So now, as you can see, they have like a really hard crunch to deal with. The enemy team has no pop flashes. So if they decide to pressure this wall, there's a high chance they just get one tapped. And it's just, a really, really hard thing to kind of deal with. So it looks a little something like this. You orb, you come in, you walk into it, and you should be in here first unless the Killjoy is super ready that you're going to orb. Now, if the Sova breaks it or starts shooting at it, you can cascade here, stop it here, you have control of this, and now all of a sudden, look at this control you have, right? This is instant, immediate control that no other agent can do on the fly. And if you have a teammate or two with you, the two A players, they'll start coming over to screens, and your A main players, which you should have 2 or 3, can now come into the site, and you guys have a really nice quick pinch where the enemy team should not really be ready for, and it's super, super aggressive, and it's something that I feel like Harbor is really good at, but I feel like FaZe did not use this type of Harbor utility, well. Now this is the last round we're looking at round 12. It's a classic B hit where I feel, again, Harbor's potential as an aggressive controller is not being used correctly. FaZe has a Killjoy ult, and instead of using Harbor's util to take more space, so G2 has to retake more space, they kind of use the Harbor wall as a replacement wall for Viper. This sometimes can be okay if you have like a post-plant setup, but in this scenario, there isn't really much, and I feel, again, some of his util is not being used to the best of his ability. So let me explain again. Now this was the setup that both teams had. The reason why all the defensive players on G2 side are playing so far back is because KJ had an ult like this, so it forced them to push back. Now, after this KJ ult, we get the plant down and Sova dies to a molly. Unfortunately, that's the life of the planner. Once that death occurred, I would have loved to see Harbor become aggressive and potentially do 2 things. One of them being cascading through this Viper wall, and you can do something like this. Right, you can cascade through and potentially do a double swing. Right now, with this double swing, you can cascade forward and peek right. Once you peek right and clear right, if this KJ hasn't dropped down, you can then KO flash through and potentially get 2 quick kills, just like that. Another play you can do with Harbor is using high tide, like so, and potentially taking deep space control, deep sight control like this, kind of creating the same thing. But you can also take a little bit of sight, and this with a similar kind of mindset, maybe double come up again, maybe Killjoy comes up too, take sight here because you know it's clear, and then again, maybe again do another KO flash pop through either one of these walls, right? Or sorry, right here, either one of these walls. It's just completely free pops on footsteps, right? So these are just some ideas that FaZe could have used in this setup. And that's going to be the end of the video. There were some other things that I wanted to show as well, but I wanted to save those things for the eventual Harbor guide on Xbox that will be coming out in the future. There is a general Harbor guide coming out soon, and then we're going to do map-specific Harbor guides as well. So I don't want to give out my secret juice too early, But if you did like this style of video, give me a like, give me a comment. Check out my Twitch channel on twitch.tv, and don't forget to subscribe on YouTube as well. And again, I read every comment. I appreciate all the support recently, guys. It means a lot. Thank you so much.